Hello, I'm Hannah.
And I'm Tom. Welcome to the Digital Behaviour Podcast, a podcast about human behaviour in the digital world.
In this podcast, we help you understand what drives online behaviour, how we can measure this, and the impact on the wider world.
Today, we're going to be meeting Jon Payne, who's a bit of an entrepreneur in the digital marketing world. He recently sold his agency and is now helping to grow Building Brands, an organisation that hosts digital marketing events across the Southwest.
Let's meet Jon. Welcome to the podcast, Jon. Would you mind introducing yourself?
Yeah. Hi, Hannah. Hi, Tom. Thank you for having me along. I'm Jon. I am an independent RevOps consultant. RevOps meaning revenue operations, which is a business function that is all about maximizing an organization's revenue potential. I tend to focus more on profit, but the kind of established name for it is currently RevOps. Fairly new, but yeah. So I help businesses becoming more profitable by aligning marketing, sales, and service around a better process platform, typically CRM software, and training their people on being more focused around what can we do to grow revenue. And when it works, it can be quite transformative in terms of the improvement in revenue and profitability, and the happiness of the client, the staff, because they're all focused on doing one thing really well. And typically clients are more happy because we can make their sales journey from stranger to delighted customer a lot smoother. I do that for 3 or 4 businesses at the moment. I used to run agencies, which I think is why I'm here. But yeah, right now I do that. That's about it. I'm a bald old white man in marketing called Jon.
I'd say you're pretty well known on the scene in digital marketing in Bristol. So I think you're more than just any old Jon in marketing. And so, welcome to the podcast, Jon, obviously. We've got lots of points to discuss with you. I think, your current consultancy roles are going to be really interesting to find out a bit more about. I imagine, actually, before I ask you the next question, do you tend to focus on using HubSpot, or is that one of the tools that you use among others?
If an organization gives me their keys to HubSpot, I can do stuff with it. If they're using Salesforce or Pipedrive or various other systems, I can Eloqua, Marketo, I can do stuff, but there's no point in me having the keys. I tend to focus on process and people, because I can't really affect the platform too much. But if they've got HubSpot, I can do amazing things.
Great. Yeah, I thought I'd heard or seen that that was one of your areas of expertise. Obviously, one of the reasons why you're so well known, particularly around Bristol, is because you were running an agency until fairly recently. You and your partner, and the agency was called Noisy Little Monkey. I just wondered if we could start by asking you about what it was actually like running an agency, because I know that plenty of listeners will have dreams of becoming an entrepreneur, maybe in the digital marketing space or maybe doing something else, but generally working for themselves and hopefully making some money, certainly enough money to live on by doing that. And some of our former students, for example, at UWE, we both know have done very well at doing that. I just wondered, how did it all start? How did you end up working this area and sort of working for yourself and building an agency?
I come from a family of people who work for themselves. Both my grandfathers, or my grandparents actually, on my dad's side, they ran a greengrocers, and indulged in minor criminal activity, which is fairly entrepreneurial, and no guns. And on my mum's side, they were barbers, so they had their own barber shop, which is kind of like small time. Was it Napoleon who described Britain as a nation of shopkeepers?
Yeah.
I think we kind of still are, but we're a nation of like work from home freelancers now instead of shopkeepers, it feels like often. But yeah, so my family came from working for themselves. My dad worked for himself, and therefore the whole family worked for him when he was busy. My mum and dad worked together, and then I didn't really want to work for my dad, because that felt like that was like nepotism, and I shouldn't really do that, even though he's not famous or rich. I should have just had a job off my dad; it would have been easier. So I started working for a telesales company, selling laser printers, and my clever boss there set up a website to sell laser printers in 1997. Yeah, and when it started to outperform the telesales team of 22 people in about 1998, I thought, ooh, I need to get on board with this. What I didn't do is go and set up a website that sold printers. That's what I should have done. I'd be a billionaire. Actually, I'd just be a millionaire like he is. I left and I set up an agency with my friend Tim, who was really good at building Access databases, Access being Microsoft's database product in the 90s and early 2000s. We would build websites with database backends way back in 1999. We started doing that. That business didn't quite work out. Tim and I can't make much profit when we work together. Don't know why. We both now run I used to run. He still runs. He still runs the business we set up together, which is a software developer for the automotive logistics sector now. I moved to Bristol because I met my wife, Nick, and she said, "You're a failure running a web design agency. Come and live with me, get a proper job." So I did that, moved to the fabulous city of Bristol, and worked for an agency who I shan't name on your podcast because I don't want to damage you reputationally, but I'll name it if you come talk to me. And it was everything I hated about digital marketing agencies. Told lies to their clients, overcharged, underdelivered, never delivered on time. And I thought, I can't do this. So I set up, much against my new girlfriend's wishes at the time, I just became a freelance SEO person. So I was doing SEO for a few clients, and that turned into doing SEO and conversion rate optimization, and then sort of training their teams on how to deal with incoming leads. And that morphed into, accidentally, kind of, an agency, which eventually ended up employing about 20 people. Called Noisy Little Monkey. As you say, we had events that we would hold in Bristol. So we became, I generate leads. That's like my thing is I need to generate sales leads for businesses that sell to other businesses. I'm pretty good at e-commerce as well, but actually I'm really good at generating leads and thinking about the process there. And so one of the things we had to do for ourselves was make ourselves really well known. And I'm not good at PR. I'm okay at networking, but I come from a vaguely show busy family. Show off more than show biz, actually. So we'll run events, and we'll make the events really good, make them really have a community feel, have a front of house. So everything that isn't on the stage, everything that you feel as you go through an experience just feels really polished, really good fun, and really chill. If we can have that, then it almost doesn't matter what speakers we get. I'll also get really good speakers, but if a speaker has a bad day, it doesn't matter because everybody's having a great time. So yeah, it kind of morphed into Noisy Little Monkey, an agency there, 20 people, when we did events for our own lead generation, which ended up generating leads for speakers and sponsors and all of that kind of stuff. So it was quite good fun, yeah.
Yeah, they were. I remember coming to one of your events at what was called the Colston Hall, obviously the Bristol Beacon now. Yeah, before the refurbishment, I think, quite a long time ago. And great. It was really well. It was friendly. It was well run. Great community of people there. Interesting speakers. It was really great, and it was a good event in itself. I was never going to be a client of yours because I think even then I was a lecturer probably at university. But it was a really good event to attend in itself, to learn from the speakers that were there, as well as obviously, highlighting your role within digital marketing and promoting Noisy Little Monkey as an expert in this field. It was great. It was a really good idea.
Kind of like in-person content marketing, right? You just give away all of the stuff you can, and some of the people in the room will be the right audience. It's kind of a shotgun approach, but it works quite nicely because you do get to share all of that knowledge, and the speakers get to look cool. And the people who are right will come and talk to you, and the people who aren't right, like you, Tom, will have a good time, learn some stuff, and maybe think nicely of us. But if that's all we get, that's great.
Then you kind of alluded a bit towards, changes in technology as your career went on, from working in the 90s, sort of late 1990s, to the 2000s. And obviously there have been a lot of changes in technology, a lot of changes in sort of digital marketing techniques. Are there any that you would say really stand out that made the biggest difference in terms of whether that's revenue creation, for your consumer, or something that you say that really changed everything?
Yeah. Well, I'm old, so
Yeah. Okay. Maybe more than the internet itself.
Yeah.
Maybe something.
dinosaurs stopped roaming the earth, and we've all got keyboards. Um, uh, so yeah, so Google and social media really kind of came up while I was early in my career doing this. But I think, if I just think back over the last sort of 5-10 years, programmatic advertising is just incredible. The fact that you can now just feed whichever digital marketing platform you're using, or whichever mix of them you're using, with the component parts of what you think a great advert might be. Your strapline, your logo, some colors, some backgrounds, some photos, and then it using, I guess, neural networks and that kind of stuff, not quite AI, just goes, well, this combination does the best, so we'll just do that. And now we'll iterate on that, and increasingly now they're like, well, those platforms will create adverts for you based on your best performing advert. That can be a bit dangerous, because everybody ends up with an advert that says elevate your, because that's AI's favorite word at the moment, as elevate your X. But yeah, I think programmatic is a huge thing. The tools and the measurement has got so much better. When I started, people still had hit counters on their websites, and we were like, well, look, with this new tool from Urchin Tracker, which is what the little UTM stands for when you see it in the URL, it's Urchin Tracker metric or something, even because Google Analytics bought that. But if you use this Urchin Tracker, it'll tell you how many visitors you've had, not just how many hits you've had.
Yeah.
Because people would be like, that I've had 1 million hits, not that. But your website, when people arrive at your website, one visitor can be 700,000 hits, so you've had 2 visitors.
Yeah.
So that's really good. And of course they've got better and better and better. We've got tools like SEMrush, Ahrefs, SparkToro, just amazing tools that both can inspire you to create great content or create great stuff on your website, or they can help you measure what works and do more of that kind of stuff. But the danger is, I think, if you are not mindful about the way you do your job, and you're not particularly happy in your work, you can just do what the tools tell you, and the tools are often telling everybody else to do the same thing as you. And all of the great marketers, all of the great salespeople, when everybody else is B and an X, all the great marketers and salespeople will be a 0. Just be different. And so that's one of the danger. But I mean, I guess having said that, the inspired people, when I used to go to conferences in the old days, there'd be 3 or 4 of us, and now there's hundreds of us. Stuff like Brighton SEO, which is a huge one in the digital marketing space. The people who come along and speak there, who you've never heard of, or who I've never heard of, and then you're like, wow, I've been doing this for years, and this person has just nailed 4 or 5 things that I have never ever thought about, whether that's through thinking about customer management, or whether it's thinking about the way you do stuff. Yeah, so the tools, the measurement, and the people for me are the big changes.
Yeah. It sounds like you've really enjoyed your career so far, and obviously this isn't the end of your career. You're just doing something different now. But I wonder whether the whole creating an agency thing, which it sounds like you also kind of arrived at sort of by chance, but sort of serendipitously, slightly. It sounds like it wasn't like you said, like Stephen Bartlett, age 22, right, I'm going to start an agency and it's going to be like this. It just kind of happened through where you got to. But would you recommend that to someone else if you were to go back 15 years or whenever it was that you started Noisy Little Monkey? Would you do that whole thing again, or are there lessons that you've learned that have taught you to do things differently?
Yeah, absolutely not. Particularly not in the next year or 2. I started Noisy Little Monkey in a recession. It's even harder right now. for agencies, because there are so much more of them. So no, I wouldn't recommend it unless your desire and your enthusiasm is all around managing people and process.
Yeah.
Because that's what it is, running an agency. I went into it because I thought I need help to execute some of the stuff I'm doing. So I'd have the ideas and I'd have to execute them because I was a freelancer, and then I'd have to measure them and have to talk with the client about all of that kind of stuff. And that I had too many clients for one person. And so I thought, well, we'll get someone else in. And we were an SEO agency, or I was an SEO agency. I hired Nicola, my wife. So she left her very good job for the civil service, working 4 days a week for half of what I was going to pay her. So would come and work for me 7 days a week for half the money. And then we hired Tasha Baldwin, creative director, who was incredible. And that was great. And our team grew, and we always got people with really good skills. But what ends up happening is you get really good skilled people, and then the three of us were just pulled into being the managing team of an agency, and we didn't get to do the hands-on work that we really loved. We didn't get to talk to the clients that we really enjoyed. So if your passion is for building something and building the machine, and including that the people, brilliant. Then start an agency. That's a great idea. You'll need to hire someone creative and enthusiastic in whatever it is you're doing. If you're doing SEO, you still need creativity. If you're doing PR, you definitely need it. If you're doing, just any kind of, become a graphic design agency or a video agency, you're going to need someone creative, and it's probably not you if your passion is building a machine. Kind of you're more engineering. That's great. That's a really good, everybody needs one, but you need a creative sidekick. But yeah, if your passion is the doing and you really enjoy getting stuck in, then freelance is a pretty good way to go. I was freelance basically, and I was earning way more money. And then I ran an agency for 18 years and didn't achieve the potential I could reach in terms of earnings. And now I'm freelance again, and I'm earning twice what I was earning when I was running the agency. And it was a successful agency. So, we weren't messing around. But you have to keep, 3 to 6 months money in the bank in case all your big clients drop out. You don't want to lay off all of your staff that you've trained over the last 10 years. If a few big clients go. So there's a lot of stuff you have to keep. You have to be careful about in an agency, and also emotionally it takes a toll, because you're worried about, you're paying people's rent, you're paying people's mortgages, and when things go wrong, you put them in a difficult position when you have to lay them off. I've had to lay off. Thankfully only had to lay off 6 people in my entire life, and the last time I did it, which was just as we went into the pandemic, I laid off a whole pod. So a graphic designer, a customer manager, and an SEO, and I had to lay them off. My wife, I was up in the attic because we weren't allowed in the office. I was up in the attic before they'd announced furlough. This is why I did it.
Oh, wow.
And and business running people, clever people who've run businesses say, cut deep, cut hard, and cut early. It's like pruning roses. You really want to get in there, and you need to make the changes now, because if you wait another month, that's a whole another month of salaries you're going to have to pay for those people that you could be making redundant and protecting the jobs of the other dozens of people that you're employing. So those people had to lay off. I laid them off. I was upstairs, had to do it on the phone, couldn't do it face to face because we weren't allowed to see each other. My wife thought I was laughing hysterically from downstairs. She was on a call with the rest of the team telling everybody what I was doing. She said, he's laughing. I don't know why he's laughing. And she came upstairs and I was sobbing. And I'm not particularly, music makes me emotional. I'm pretty much a sociopath when it comes to people, or I thought I was, until that day. And it was worse. It was worse than when my mum died. And that was pretty awful. It was horrible. So yeah, and you're going to have to do it. If you run an agency, at some point, you'll probably have to do that. So freelance, you're probably not going to have to do that. It's going to get tough because it's much more feast and famine. You can't have a big pipeline of stuff because pipeline of sales ready to come in for you to work on, because you don't quite know when you're going to have the time to work on stuff. So it's a bit more feast and famine.
It sounds like you've actually arrived at your happy place now. Having been through that journey, you're at a point now where you recognize that you like doing what you're doing, 3 or 4 clients, focus on one particular thing that you're brilliant at, and not worry about the HR and the other things that were obviously pretty stressful. Well done for getting to that place. I'm sure many people don't. I'm sure many people just hope for retirement, and that's going to be the end of it. And it takes them a lot longer. Hannah.
No, absolutely. And that's sort of where leads very nicely to my next question. If we're moving away from the agency life and maybe even, I guess you are freelancing now, and you've also joined Building Brands. Tom and I know Building Brands very well, but in case there are other listeners who don't, would you mind just summarising what Building Brands does and tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Just Building Brands is a community of marketing professionals based broadly in the southwest of England and South Wales. And it was founded by this lovely guy who you both know well, I'm sure, called Dave Briggs, who, in addition to being one of the kindest people I've ever met, is probably the best hugger in the Western Hemisphere. His hugs are great. Anyway, but so Dave founded it, actually, weirdly enough, in a kind of circuitous thing. He founded it after he'd come to a Digital Gaggle event, which was one of Noisy Little Monkeys events in Bristol. And we were holding them in Bristol because we thought that people shouldn't have to travel to London for these kind of events. That was one of the thoughts behind it. And he thought that actually people in Plymouth shouldn't have to travel for Bristol for this sort of event. So we had a couple of conversations, and he tapped up some of the speakers and sponsors and all of that kind of stuff that we were seeing, because it was like, yeah, no, you should definitely do it in Bristol, in Plymouth. No, I definitely don't want to be involved. I run this bloody agency. So he founded it. It started off as a Plymouth and Exeter thing. And then when I sold Noisy Little Monkey and was no longer doing that, he said, why don't we start a Bristol event? Which I thought was a terrible idea. Why would I do that? I've just done loads. But it was Dave. And I thought, no, I really do want to work with you, Dave. And I think this could be good. So he and Chris Bentley, who's the host and the kind of driving force of commercialism, I think, often behind it, allowed me to join, and we set up a Bristol event, and it went really well. And now we have a couple of extra board advisors in Moret, Reutlingsberger. I think you know Hannah.
Well, just from the last event as well, but she's been promoted recently to speak to our students, which was fantastic.
Also a terrific hugger, but not at the level of Dave. And Hannah Mepstead. And so, now we put on 3 conferences a year, one in Bristol in the autumn, one in Exeter in the kind of winter, and one in Plymouth, which will be in spring. And we have a few other little events that go on for the rest of the year. But that's it. It's to ensure that people in the Southwest can come and see and learn from incredible speakers from all over the world. And they don't have to go to London. And one of the things I really love about it is Moret did a word cloud of what everybody was saying on LinkedIn. And once you took out people's names, the big words that showed up were stuff obviously like marketing and learning. But two of the other big ones were meet and love. Isn't that cool for a marketing event? Love being one of the event, but that comes from like Dave being just a great guy, and then I guess the rest of the community being like, we're led by that, and it's a glorious thing. And we cover stuff for the whole world of marketing, but obviously we lean quite a lot of digital because that's where everybody spends.
It feels like a kind of community as well, Building Brands. It feels like it's quite a friendly place to be. It's not necessarily like a formal conference that you might go to in a big city like London or something. It feels like it's kind of people helping each other. And of course, some of the people that speak, they're there because they need to grow their business, and because they're freelancers, they're looking for work, and that's fine, and that's upfront really. But it feels like people are there to sort of help each other and learn from each other. It just feels like a nice community, and a bit of a gap that we didn't really have events that cater for that. I mean, obviously there are all sorts of marketing organizations that organize events and have speakers, but having this kind of community feel event, a conference sort of thing, really, an informal conference, really didn't really exist before. So it feels like a bit of a gap in the market that you filled.
Yeah, we're particularly keen on getting people who've not spoken before along to speak, which is partially why it has that community feel, because no one pitches. Like, you could have no one pitches. Yeah, no one pitches. Everybody wants to be there to share their knowledge, and that's the key thing. Is if you're there to share, oh, hello, I'll put that in something. But if you're there to share, then that's going to be great. If you're there just to try and win new business or to look good, we're not interested, and no one else is. I also think that's partially a Southwest thing. I'm not a Southwest boy. I'm a Pompey boy, and before that, a bit of a London boy. And I am the down in the Southwest, the attitude of sharing, and partially that's a digital marketing thing as well. It's quite an open community, but the attitude of sharing down here in every sector is just so glorious and so different to everywhere else. I would urge the students of Plymouth University and UWE to, when they graduate, not go to London and Manchester and stay here in the Southwest, because it's so lovely. And you'll come back anyway. That's what everybody else does.
Yeah, and I have to say, when we talked about freelancing earlier, it's one of the things that we try to really support at the university here, for our students who are thinking about staying, because there is a bit of a problem. And I think Bristol might not be as the problematic as in Plymouth, but about sort of brain drain, where a lot of our graduates wants to go to the bigger city because they're better jobs or, bigger jobs, or experience that life a bit more. So we really try to make them see, the beauty of Plymouth, who lots of them see, but others might not, but also just to open up opportunities, with regards to helping them set up their own business, helping them with freelancing. So it's something we sort of try to really instill in our students as well. But Jon, I had another question. You alluded to some of the sort of topics that you cover on or during the Building Brands events. Would you say there are any particular topics that are really sort of popular that more people provide feedback on or want to hear about? Or is it something you can't really, because it is so, widely spread in terms of digital marketing, but also traditional marketing and other channels, that is hard to tell?
It can be hard to tell. I guess it might be easier to answer it with some of the stuff that surprised me that people are really interested in, although I'm also interested in it, so I don't know why it was a surprise. But of course there's all the digital stuff, so everybody wants to learn about the latest SEO stuff. Spoiler, it's the same as the SEO stuff in the year 2000 probably, but it's just a bit more sophisticated. Don't try and game the system and read all of the blogs, and you'll be fine. You don't need to learn any more about SEO. You probably do a bit if you really want to do it, but yeah, they want to know about SEO. They want to know about analytics. They want to know about email marketing. They want to know about conversion rates, and that's all kind of web-based stuff. The thing that delighted me about the last few was people being interested in psychology, because that underpins everything, right? Certainly in sales and marketing. And we may not, certainly when I started in sales, I didn't know I was doing anything psychological. I was just fortunate enough to have been brought up into an entrepreneurial household. So lots of those triggers kind of came naturally to me. And then someone said, oh, you're doing these psychological things. And I was like, no, oh, that's cool. And then they went, if you did them in a different order, you'd be really successful. Oh my goodness. So the psychology side of things, brilliant. It is great that people are there. Therefore, because that it just fills me with hope that these people aren't simply just coming along to tick some boxes and go, okay, well, I learned about this, I learned about that. They're trying to better the way they do their work. Creativity, so how to think more creatively, and if you can, it's worth. So from a psychological point of view, Steve Manser, who works at DC UK, spoke at the last Building Brands. He loves his psychology and really knows about it. We managed to make him cram a little bit into 45 minutes, which made him feel a bit like, made him a bit worried that he would come across as a charlatan, but he didn't. He came across brilliant, but he's got such a deep knowledge and understanding of that. And someone who else has got that and about creativity and about well-being is someone like Kirsty Hulse, who runs Confidence Live, a conference up in Stoke, where she's from. But yeah, she absolutely lit up the room, and people were so excited to have someone like her speak. And a lot of people didn't know who she was, and she comes along and speaks about how to get yourself in a creative headspace. And broadly, I think the rules are: don't try and get yourself in a creative headspace. Have a longer shower was basically my note. And then people talking about, client management or managing your boss. So yeah, those are the ones that kind of pop up to me as like, first two of those really excite me. I don't really care about managing clients. It's just you have to do it. But the first two of those really excited me, and it's just really thrilling that actually the rest of the community were also into those things as well, as way more than I expected they would, which probably says a lot about my low expectations of other human beings.
Yeah, well, the appetite for psychology in particular is music to my ears, because that's my area of research and interest, and yeah, I'm really pleased to hear there's an appetite for that. I was just going to ask you about general state of the market as well, because these building brands events are probably a good way to sort of test the climate of the market, and people have been generally quite gloomy over the last couple of years about the marketing industry, industry generally. I think the number of jobs being advertised is quite low at the moment, which indicates that there isn't a lot of growth, but people seem to be a bit more positive about 2025, and perhaps there are a couple of things I spotted in Marketing Week this week showing that actually marketers are quite positive about there being bigger budgets perhaps next year and businesses starting to grow. Obviously that's what the government's trying to do as well, is grow the economy after it being pretty flat for a while, and advertising spend is predicted to go up slightly, I think, next year as well. I wondered if you've had any sense of that from being on the ground at these events, whether people are starting to feel a bit more optimistic about the way that the marketing industry is looking for the next year or so.
I hate to be that guy, but everybody's optimistic in marketing every year. We were apart from maybe pandemic, people were really scared, and rightly, but every year since then, people have said, "Oh, next year's going to be better," and this is hearsay. I can't remember where this came from. It might have been an agency hackers event, but I'm pretty sure that the prevailing feeling was that this is the worst year of 2024. Has been the worst year for agencies for over 20 years. So, which is that nearly predates me in the digital world. So I think, I do think it's going to get better, but I think we need to manage our expectations and be realistic about it, because you don't recover from the slump that we're in quickly. But there might be some green shoots, but there'll be peaks and there'll be troughs in that recovery graph. So I think in terms of building brands, I think most of those agencies and those in-house people, from my conversations, are saying we just want to get through it. We just want to get through it. They're not looking. They're all hopeful for growth and anticipating growth, but I think we've been so beaten up by the last 10 years, that probably 5 years, isn't it? That actually there's a realism in what they're in their actual attitude versus what they say out loud. And I can, looking at so Spark Toro, in association with a new leader, recently put out they interviewed 600 and something agencies, and the current pipeline of leads for these agencies across the globe, nearly 40% of them are saying it's not good. That's their sales pipe. So what? And that's next year, right? That's the first quarter, first 6 months easily of next year. If you're an agency that can forecast, which you should be, then your outlook is 40% of you are saying it's not very good, and the remaining another 50% are saying that it's average. So that's okay. To me, that doesn't suggest a great deal of growth. And I want the industry to grow, but I also want people to be realistic about that growth. And certainly, selling tickets to marketing events isn't as easy as it was 6 years ago.
Yeah.
Like 6 years ago, nearly. If Claire Dibben ever listens to this, she'll be like that. No, it wasn't. We used to be absolutely terrified, but it did feel like a piece of cake compared to now. We thankfully, Building Brands has a great reputation, and we've got a growing community, and we are one of those, the minority that is growing. And we're really fortunate in that. And again, that comes from the top, just as a fish rots from the head. If you've got someone good at the head of an organization, then all of that goodwill and good feeling flows down. So we're lucky enough to have that. But yeah, I think there is growth. But just looking at the Wow company, who is a accounting firm that specifically works with agencies, have a benchmark document white paper that they produce every year for agencies, and 10% of agencies that turn over £1 million have less than 1 month's cash in the bank.
Yeah,
that is freaking terrifying. Like, if one client goes, they are either going into an overdraft, which a bank won't give you in this kind of environment, or they're going to go bust. And there are over 50% of them with 3 months or less. I'm a risk taker. I want 6 months or more.
yeah,
And I'm really risking when I'm saying that, but I want 6 months or more so that I can protect my people, protect the investment I've made in them. So I think I'm hopeful, and I think most people are hopeful, but I think realistically, we've probably got another year of slow growth. Maybe summer we'll start to really see it pick up. I hate to say it, I think the election of Trump in the US is probably a good thing in the short term for the economy. I think it's a terrible thing in the long term for the economy and for the world. But in the short term, I think it's probably going to be good, because when America sneezes, we catch cold. And already shares and stuff are going up over there, and that makes me sad to say it. But
yeah,
let's ride the wave, even though we don't like what's pushing the wave.
yeah. I suppose the other way of framing that is to say, well, actually, when times are tough, actually, maybe you need marketing more. I mean, maybe you need to spend more on investing in marketing to build that awareness and start the whole funnel going again, so that when the money's there, when consumers have got money again, they can start spending. And that's another way of framing it. And also, it's when businesses need to invest in sending people to Building Brands events to learn about the latest techniques that are going to make them effective and more effective at marketing. So I suppose there's, you can kind of spin it either way as being, a good time to be learning and developing and investing, so that eventually we can grow our way out of this slump that we're in.
And I'm only looking at the next 12 months. I think the next 34, 36 months, we'll start to see some significant growth. So yeah, if you can hang on.
Yeah. But before we finish, we should also mention your other sideline as well. Obviously, you've got lots of hats, actually, Jon, haven't you? Building brands, your freelance work, but also, of course, you've got a fantastic podcast, which we'd recommend to listeners. Slightly ruder than this podcast, I think it's probably fair to say. Would you mind telling us about is it the 5-Star Podcast? Is that the right title?
Yeah. It is the 5-Star podcast. It's grossly ruder. It's not just slightly ruder. It is almost, compared to this, it's almost, you put your headphones on and it's unmitigated filth for an hour. But 5-Star podcast is, I've worked very briefly with a lady called Charlie Hunt, who I've admired for a long time. She ran agencies in Bristol as well. She is now a fractional operations and finance consultant. She'll love that I forgot what she does. But she works where I help people generate more revenue. She helps them save it and make more profit at the end. And we laugh and are horrible every time we're together. And it's one of the greatest things in my life, hanging out with chuckles. And so it was her suggestion that we should do a podcast. And so we tried to figure out what we should do it about. And we realized that actually one of the things that we can maybe tie to business is we surprise each other with Google reviews. So businesses with bad Google reviews from all over the world, as long as it's the English speaking world, each week. and then we react to those reviews, and then we give unsolicited business advice for the business owner, and life coaching, and spelling and grammar tips for the reviewers. And during all of that time, we like to make sweeping generalizations about all sorts of things. We are rude and we swear a lot. So don't listen to it if you find that stuff repulsive, because we wouldn't want you to be upset. But if you do like infantile nonsense, then yes, look it up. The 5-Star Podcast. It's on Spotify, Apple, everywhere. YouTube.
Is there any other way if people want to get in touch with you that they could? What's best to sort of contact you?
Google Jon Payne, no H, Payne. And don't click the guy who's an organist, and don't click the guy who's a sports photographer, and don't click the guy who's a disgraced American preacher. Click the bald guy with a rainbow behind him. And if that doesn't work, Google Jon Payne, no H, Payne, RevOps, RevOps, and then I should be all over that page.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for your time today, Jon. It's really entertaining and great to have you on board.
Yeah, I'm sure everyone's learned a huge amount about all the different things you do, and I hope they sign up to attend some of the Building Brands events, and of course get in touch if you can help them in any way with your consultancy work too. So thanks very much for your time, Jon.
We'll give you a discount code for Building Brands so you can put it out to your listeners.
Thank you. That'd be great.
That would be great. Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. Thanks very much, and I'll speak to you again soon.
Thank you.
Bye.